Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
We're broadcasting live from the line at Starbucks.
We have to multitask.
This is a special Christmas episode.
It's Saturday. It's 10 minutes till Christmas.
The comfort for us is knowing that you're all doing the same things.
Yeah.
In fact, you might not have time to listen to this podcast.
You're probably
and that's
in
all
line
right.
at Starbucks also.
You might be, because I'm in the ultimate bang trimming phase of Christmas shopping. I actually called it. I was like, it's time to stop. But then you got like 3 or 4 more after the stop, put your pencils down moment.
You are in the bang trimming, which has its own troubles. I'm in that moment of like, do you think we should start getting the scissors out? I think maybe we could. I mean, like, it's bad.
Well, I have
it's bad.
it's a different lineup for me this year. So there is other things that I am not done with at all. But this, I have pretty much. But see, like, have I purchased food for Sabbath tonight? No, I haven't. Have I purchased things for Christmas dinner? Not yet.
No.
Have I? So the food side of this is what is on my plate.
Yeah. Well, I'm not to the food yet. I'm still trying to wonder about gifts. And, of course, I have passed the deadline for even Amazon Prime to help me. So, whatever it is, it's going to be local, you guys.
You're going to love it. We've already started the talks about how you're going to be disappointed with our kids. I think it's very funny. People think this is crazy, but it makes for the sweetest, best Christmases. Like, we do not psych our kids up for, you're going to get amazing presents. Can you even believe that you're going to get presents?
No.
Like, can you even, it's presents. We do not do that. Like, we have a lot of presents, but we start talking to them about the gifts. Like, Dad will say this, and so we've talked with our kids about this, that, like, the point of giving gifts is to give yourself, like, that you are giving yourself.
Yeah.
And that when you're receiving gifts, you're receiving the person who gave it to you. Like, you are saying, I appreciate the love you're showing me, and I love you also when you open gifts. And we were really laughing with our kids about, like, well, we're just talking, like, there will be someone who gets something you wish you got.
Totally.
That is happening.
Totally.
Like, that's going to happen. So when it happens, you should be like, there it is. That's what I'm not going to have a problem about.
Well, and also just not having an eye on that as a question.
Yeah,
Like,
being a sidelong glancer, professional.
a professional sidelong glancer will only have a bad time on Christmas.
I need to say that since we just brought this up about being a professional sidelong glancer, that
Let's just pause to say every human is born already as a professional.
This is a problem. This is a problem for the humanity. Well, I was sent a book by Tilly Dillahay called Seeing Green, like, don't let envy color your joy, or something like that. And anyways, I read it, and if you are a person who struggles with envy, this is, or even someone that thinks you maybe sort of struggle with envy, you should probably read something like this, because it's a good book. It's just a biblical approach to what's happening with envy. But it's also just, it's something that could do you good to think thoroughly about the topic. Like, to actually not think of it as being like, it's like envy can be for people like a couple fruit flies in your house. And you should go find where the rotting banana is. Do you know what I mean? Like if you keep having fruit flies, and you keep being like, well, it's a pretty little problem I'm having here. It's like, it is, but it's also an endlessly little problem that will very soon corrupt your whole home.
It can get real gross. One time I had a bunch of flies just spontaneously erupt in my house.
They do that.
Little teeny ones.
You know that those, you mean flies, like house flies?
No. I mean like little teeny weeny fruit flies.
Yeah.
And I didn't
They're all teeny weeny.
But you know what they did? And
Praise the Lord.
I felt like this was very insulting of them. And this is what I mean by it can get into a gross problem. I had a whole bunch of vinegars in my cupboard with pour spouts. And they all went in and died. Died. Flotillas of dead flies in every bottle. Like, every bottle. And
that is just harsh and mean-spirited.
And guys, we have to order. Just a minute. What do you want?
Starbucks, can we get started for you today?
Yes, I would like a tall chai tea latte, please, and actually, I haven't had one of those in forever. Get me one of those.
Actually, we're gonna make that 2 of those, please.
Are they? Is it non-fat?
Awesome. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Perfect. It'll be
I'm living the Christmas dream, people. I think I'm getting 2%.
I think we might be just drinking the cream right now.
Living the Christmas dream.
It's the Christmas week. We
So,
gotta power up. Anyway,
so they dyed in your vinegars?
all my vinegars,
Oh.
and they were like matte, and it was funny because it was like one day
That's
I was
funny
like,
because that's how you trap them.
yeah, because I was
So,
like,
yeah.
what are all these flies here? What's going on? And then they were gone, and I was like, oh, all right. And then I get out one of my vinegars, and it's like, what is this strange floaty mass in my bottle?
That is the worst thing I've ever even thought of.
Yeah. So if anybody ever feels like putting pore spouts in your vinegar, I'm here to tell you.
I'll tell you how
Don't
to
do it
feel
unless
like it.
there's a lid on it.
This is how you treat a fruit fly. We used to have a more problem with fruit flies at our last house because there was a pear tree outside that would just made pears up in the way high branches, and then it would drop them when they were already like
too ripe.
sog bombs, like, and they would just be like, and so if you didn't pick those up in like 30 seconds, it was by the back door. So then the kids would go out, and in would come all these fruit flies.
Yeah, looking for your vinegar.
It was pretty evil.
If they can find it.
So you'd have like a banana in your house or like a peach, and the fruit flies would all come galloping in to check it out, and you're like, no. So I would keep it anyways. But what helps you to really feel like a Ghostbuster is a vacuum, because you can vacuum up fruit flies because they're too lightweight to resist. But you know how they're very difficult to catch any other way. They kind of just poof, like they poof away all the time. But vacuums, boy, they can't resist it. So you just vacuum them up out of the air. You're just catching them with the hose out of the air. This is a seasonal tip for you.
Yeah, it is.
Seasonal, not this season, but
We've got several tips. Cap your pore spouts.
I actually saved up a tip for today.
Did you?
Yeah.
We'll save it till the end. 'cause
It's
we haven't
actually
even
a really,
started.
I find it entertaining and funny, but so earnest. All right. I won't give you my tips yet.
I'm sorry that I sailed away with the fruit flies.
Okay, we should go back though to
You were
envy,
talking
because
about
we're talking
envy.
about envy, and I'm saying that like it's so important to think of Christmas and the gift giving and buying and all this is you want to bless other people. And so what I was telling my kids is I was like, guys, here's how it is. I love you all. This is our dinner table conversation. I try my hardest to get everyone fun gifts that they will really love. It's like, but I can't do a perfect job. And so it's important that you all just know that this is us trying to love on each of you, which I think is very funny. And
Basically,
they're
it's your
great
big,
with it.
it's
They have
the
no
thought that counts message.
but then and Luke was like, yeah, because the gift is about the giver giving themselves to you, like loving you and giving themselves to you. And I was like, yeah, and sometimes you may open up that box and be like, whoa, mom is not looking like her best right now.
Indeed.
Like, and I still expect you to love me.
Yeah.
Even when I did something super weird,
so
or
odd.
got you the thing that I got you last year and forgot about, or
Hello, how's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Good.
774 for you.
All right.
we only have a 20. You want to pay with a 20?
I'll give you change.
Yeah.
How much was it?
$7.74.
Guys, sorry. Here you are with us.
They don't mind. They're drinking one too.
Oh, they're having that same problem.
Yeah.
So I owe you $17 ish, right?
Yeah.
And
Because I would never sport you.
can make
I'm gonna take
change
off my
out of
coat
my-
in this interruptive time. I'm gonna take off my coat.
Okay. There you are. Thank you.
Wow, what's this Christmas flames?
Yeah. Hanging out by the heart.
Yeah, lighting yourself on fire. Apparently,
That too.
I don't know why I just said I owed you $17.
because I gave you a 20.
So then I keep the change. Yeah. Weird. Here, you have that.
$12.26 by
Thanks very much. Here, you have the 26. 'cause
No,
I
you
think-
keep that part. Then I'll be even.
No, I think I still owe you like 32 cents or something.
But I don't care about that.
37?
I'm gonna give myself to you that way this Christmas.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a real bonus for me.
Appreciate it. I think that I could have just made money right there. If I had
Been
Yeah.
thinking.
If I'd been thinking, I could have taken Rachel's 20, taken the change, kept
No,
the other
because-
change. Anyway, go ahead.
You mean I would have just paid you to take me out for a coffee? So,
Anyway,
yes. So
all
my
right.
point is, as Christmas approaches, We do a lot of this with our kids, but the reality is nothing can kill a Christmas spirit quite as badly as people being finky about their gifts or fussing over which they rather would have got, you know?
Mm-hmm. So if you get yourself some random gift this Christmas, just chalk it up to
Someone's
fun
not
and
having their
frolic.
best hair day.
Yeah,
Someone,
it's
you're
just
like,
fun.
ah,
It's
look
all
at
right.
that.
We don't have Christmas as a way to enrich ourselves. You know, it's not like... It's actually really funny because there's this bit in the Odyssey. If you haven't read the Odyssey lately, everyone, let me give you a recap. So, Odysseus hasn't made it home. His son's running around trying to figure it out. He goes to visit Menelaus in Sparta. And Menelaus has only just returned himself from the Trojan War. Because he too had things go wrong on his journey. And
It wasn't a real quick trip back.
no, should have been. Should have been like 4 days home, but then they accidentally blew away to Egypt, so that slows you
It got
down.
complicated.
Anyway, he says, and then what they did is they just traveled around collecting hospitality gifts. And so,
Getting rich.
so he just made a lot of money off of going around visiting people, and then they would give you these big gifts and gold, and
Well,
it's
that was
always
the thing-
tripods.
that was the
They
thing
gave
in-
each other tripods a lot.
That,
Anyway,
that was a thing in England, like, not, well, sort of, when the queen, when the royal family would just sort of come through and devastate an estate because they would come to stay there, and it was like no
Yeah.
expense spared by anyone, and then
Yeah.
they would leave
yeah, and there
with
you were.
everyone indebted.
In the poorhouse.
Yeah.
But the thing is Menelaus's sort of approach is just travel about, drop in and collect a lot of gifts, and then come home quite wealthy.
Uh-huh.
And
And that's not Christmas.
and that isn't how you should look at Christmas. Is here's my big shot to collect all the gifts.
and it is really important to think about it, that it, like, what the human heart wants to do about it. Like, it wants to be like, look at me working harder than everyone. Look at everyone not being thoughtful of me. Look at, like, your heart wants to be a little piggy at Christmas. And the goal is to not have it do that.
Whenever you're looking at yourself metaphorically in the mirror and making your sad face, like checking your
Am I being a little piggy?
checking your little poignant eyes, your little sad eyes that you're making. You know, like, haven't we talked about
I've never thought, probably, except for all of a sudden I'm thinking how pertinent. This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. This little piggy had roast beef. And this little piggy had none.
And don't be the little
Don't
piggy
be the one
going
who
wee,
cries
wee,
wee, wee, wee. I never realized this was a metaphor for Christmas
is, but
selfishness.
Haven't we spoken before about somebody practicing their sad face in the mirror? Like,
Oh my word, and just like,
just wasn't it one of our children? I don't even remember. Like, seeing one of the kids, like, through a open door of the
Giving it a
bathroom,
warm up.
like doing like little blinky eyes, like little big, sad, poignant face,
What's
looking
wrong?
at
What's
themselves.
wrong, my love? Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, being a little bit brave, a little bit, just a little tear sparkling.
Oh my
Now the
heavenly
thing
day.
is, if you're doing that in your heart, looking at yourself, making a little, you know, here I am giving myself away to everyone, and they don't even notice.
They don't even care.
Then you're looking at yourself in the mirror with your sad face. So let's not be doing that.
It is just one of the reasons. Like, I know this is an odd thing to bring up, but all the same, here I go bringing it up. When we would like introduce a new game to our kids, we also introduce a new sin to our kids, a new way to be troubled in
true.
life.
Yeah.
And so, like, I remember a couple years ago when we were like, we should teach the kids Foursquare. And wow, out pop all the weasels of Foursquare. You know what I mean? Like, you're teaching everyone Foursquare, and all of a sudden you, like, have created a new situation for them to not know. To, like, previously unknown temptations. You know, like, that where they are feeling that someone shouldn't have been that good, or that was a mean throw of Foursquare,
Or like, I'm
I'm
the athletic person, and she isn't. So why is she winning?
Or being the person to be always arguing the calls.
Yeah.
forever that was 2 on the line, you know? And so something that Luke and I noticed as parents is that we started trying to introduce games to them more often, where we were doing it specifically to sort of rototill our personality problems.
Do a bit of rock picking in the
Because it
field.
actually turns out that, like, whatever you do, someone will struggle with it somehow. Like, it's just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so, like, we just did for an Advent thing, we did a hopscotch wang ho game, like a rock, paper, scissors. So we did it down the hall, a long hopscotch thing, but it's 2 foot hopscotch, not one, but it's a long one down the hall. And then people go there's 2 teams, they come from opposite sides. And when it is time to go, they hop down from opposite sides. And when they meet each other, they rock, paper, scissors for who gets to pass through.
Okay.
And so if you lose, you have to just get out of the way. And then your next teammate hops out to try to meet them. So the goal is you're trying to get to the end to
Is
score.
it like a speed hop?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah. You're like speed hopping to rock, paper, scissors.
Interesting.
And it's a little ridiculous. But this is how you find out that someone can get teary, that they keep losing at rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Or that they care so much that they win.
And the thing is, I feel like for mothers at Christmas, there's any number of ways that you can sail off the path and become a stinker to everyone. And it might be that you feel like you should have the day off just like everyone else has the day off, and they're all lying around.
Or it might just be that
reading their new
you were not
book.
spiritually prepared for all the scotch tape and twisty ties.
Or it's like now there's glitter everywhere, and I spent so long trying to clean everything up.
does no one love me?
And then, or maybe it's that you really don't want to let everyone lie around and read their new books and eat their M&Ms and have fun. And I don't know.
Yeah,
There's just a lot of different places and ways and means.
Yep, but what I was going to say is every time we taught our kids a new game, we would unearth all this. Big holidays like Christmas is just like seasonal maintenance of a field, meaning like it's like recurring back to the same things that we struggle with all the time, like gracious giving, extending yourself for others,
Yep.
loving others more than yourself, not being envy ridden people, being joyful people, being, like, it is something that we need at least yearly, a good exercise in all of these things.
It's
and
great.
it's not, I think I was just going to say, the fact that you need to work on it is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of, it's just life. This is continuing life to have.
Yeah. A chance to do it.
Just to be like, oh, right. I remember this now.
Or sidelong glancing. This is another one you could do. Another way you could lose.
Perfect.
Instead of sidelong glancing around your living room at other people who you get more than you, or
take it to the internet?
who are not. No, I mean more like sidelong glancing across town at the other family who had a much more picturesque and beautiful and well executed and organized and attractive and thoughtful Christmas than we had at our house, where
'cause we're
everything just has like
We can't
packing
have
peanuts.
nice things.
Packing peanuts everywhere, and I hate it.
It's so much is that thing that better is a dinner of herbs where love is than the best of all things. And that no matter how good your Christmas is, you can make it terrible with your own, like, no matter how epic all the externals, you are fully equipped to make it a horror show for everyone. Like,
I'm a little suddenly thrown though, because it just occurred to me we're going to do given everybody's recent musical house thing that is happening, we are doing our broader family, the Wilson side of the family, Christmas morning. We're doing it on Christmas Eve morning, which we've done before, but only if it's like Christmas is a Sunday.
we did it last year, right? Because Christmas was on
Christmas was a Sunday, so we did it Christmas Eve. And, you always have to adjust everything when it's Christmas is on a Sunday. So, but this year we're doing it just because of the locations and how it's all going to work out. And it suddenly hit me that actually means that I need to do a Christmas breakfast this year, because usually we have a small Christmas breakfast.
Yeah.
That is bacon and a coffee cake and coffee, and then we go and do a big brunch. But this year we won't have the big brunch. So I'm like, we're going to have to come up with a new thing here. And I'm going to need to think about it now, because once when I was in England, we were there for 3 Christmases. The very first one, it did not even dawn on me until Christmas Eve, late in the afternoon, that I had to make Christmas dinner. I had never made Christmas dinner before. We always would go to Mom's. And I knew, like, Thanksgiving had been on my radar. Like, I will have to do Thanksgiving this year. And I did it. And it was like I had been thinking about it for ages. And I did it. But suddenly, Christmas Eve, I was like, oh, Christmas dinner.
Like, have nachos?
What? And so I went dashing off to the store, which was sold out of every single thing, because they were going to be closing at 4 o'clock on Christmas Eve, closed Christmas Day, and I think, were they closed Boxing Day too? I can't remember, but it was like it was going to be a thing. Like, I needed to get a lot of food in a hustle. And I got to the store at like 3:20, and they were closing at 4, and they were going to be closed, so there was like no meat left whatsoever. I came home with a large fish for Christmas dinner. And so I just feel like, oh my word.
Better a Christmas dinner of fish where love is.
And it actually turned out to be a really fun Christmas dinner. It was a great big fish, and I did something interesting to it. I can't remember. I stuffed it with something. Anyway, the point is, it wasn't exactly a Christmas dinner that you would have planned.
Right, wasn't your fave.
And suddenly I was having that feeling about, oh, people are going to be hungry on Christmas in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to go ahead and...
But you already do coffee cake, don't you?
I do, but it's not a filling coffee cake. It's that little sort of jam one, and I only ever make it on Christmas. It's like the one time it shows up in my life. And then bacon and coffee, and that's always fun.
All
but
you
it's
have
like
to do is like
morning.
throw in a quiche or a like still
Something.
But
it has to be festive. It's like it's a Christmas thing. We gotta do this thing. So anyway, that's on my to-do list today, guys, is buy all the presents for all the people locally. Do that. Also plan Christmas food. And Christmas Eve food, because we have various festivities on Christmas Eve. I gotta do that too. Anyway, oh man. Here we are. Would you like to all hear my to-do list? I'm sure it would be enthralling.
I won't respond with my to-do list.
No,
I don't think that the universe needs more to-do lists right now.
We can just leave that off the airwaves. So, is there anything else we should talk about on this Saturday morning?
How's the Bible reading
Christmas
challenge going for you?
Oh, it's good. You know, I weirdly, my spiritual gift is sleeping. It's a thing I can do. I crash hard and I don't wake up. Like, that's kind of my thing. But last night, weirdly, I woke up and I could not get back to sleep, and it's very, very rare that happens for me. And it was like, I looked at the clock and it was sort of 1:50, which is the worst possible time to wake up and not be able to go back to sleep. It's far, you can't.
3, anywhere in that like 1 to 3 range is not morning.
No, you can't.
If
really
it's like 4:45, you're like, well, the farmers are up.
Yeah,
I might as well get up.
I can get up and I can do some stuff, but 1:50, you can't get up. I mean,
no.
So anyway, I was like, yesterday was a crazy day of giving finals and finishing everything at school, and I hadn't gotten my Bible reading in, so I was like, I'll just catch up on that. So I read like 3 chapters before I was like, maybe I'll go back to sleep now. I'm not sure. So anyway, but what I'm trying to tell you is at 1:50 in the morning last night, I noticed a verse that I had not previously really ever noticed, which was whenever you read the crucifixion story, Pilate always comes off to me as like a
sad,
semi-sympathetic. He's not. I mean, he isn't. He's bad.
Yeah, but he's sad. Like, he doesn't know how to stand up to people.
Yeah, you feel like, I don't know. There's something about Pilate. Now, I think I was talking to my husband about this, and he was like, "No, if you know anything about Pilate and his other things we know about him, is he was not a good man. You know, he was not a person to feel sorry for." But the verse
Is that an owl?
I think it's a big bird of prey.
It's large and floaty, though. I wouldn't be hunting. It must be a hawk right now, because an owl wouldn't be out and about.
No.
It was huge.
This is a very confused owl. Anyway, but Pilate had mixed the blood of the Huzits with the sacrifices. And I was like, what? How did he do that? And then it's when Jesus goes on to, talk about the tower that fell on whatever. And it was just sort of this casual reference to, and then they found out that Pilate had mixed the blood of I want to say the Gadarenes, and that's wrong because those were the swine. It starts with a G. Anyway, he'd mixed was it 150 and I was making stuff up?
I don't know, but I'm not I like how much I'm not connecting with this. I'm like, you would think I would know what you're talking about, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it's just one sort of throwaway
Something
remark.
that I think is really interesting, and I brought this up if you're in the Facebook group, no doubt you've already seen me talking about this at length because I keep thinking it's interesting. But it's mostly what is standing out to me is how continuous reading of the Bible makes things make sense to you that didn't make sense to you before.
Yeah.
And that sometimes you run into something that you have even thought about and come up blank. Yeah. Like where you're just like, I don't see this. I don't get it. I'm not sure what this is doing there. And then one time you read it and it like chokes you up and moves you and you have this whole like, oh my word. That for me was, I always thought that incident with David and the census was bizarre.
Yeah.
And kind of like this bizarre incident that just kind of is thrown in there. Like, remember then when 70,000 people died in a plague because Davis took a census and you're just like, wow, that's weird.
David, not Davis. Anyway.
I don't think I said Davis.
I think you said Davis.
Well, let's get it right. David, when David took a census. So, whatever the case, I used to, like, I have read that multiple times and really come away with nothing from it. Like, and then all of a sudden this time, it was just, like, blowing me away with all of the significance of this moment.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think is interesting, and now that I've thought of it, we'll see if this comes up more in my reading, like if it's a thing that...
Sure.
So, if you haven't read this recently, it's when David is moved to but it's a really confusing story because it does actually say that God incited David to take a census. Like it does actually mention that God made David sin this way in some way. Like that God, it's a theologically...
I think it's like God hardens Pharaoh's heart and Pharaoh hardens Pharaoh's heart. Both of them do.
Yes, but it does say that God,
Yep.
However is the appropriate term is probably whatever word was actually used in the passage. But it does say that. And so then David takes a census, which is sort of like drafting all the men into the army, I think. I think it was like it's like enrolling men in the army, the census. And it is something that is you're not allowed to do without God telling you to do it. So it was a big sin on David's part.
Well, and even Joab was like,
Yeah, Joab, who's hardly the wholesome man.
No, but he's
Joab
like,
is like, why,
sure?
my king? I think that you don't really want me to do this. And he was like, yes. And Joab's like, I don't think it's a good call. So off they go. And then as soon as they come back to David, he says, I've sinned.
Yeah.
It's not like David. It's like he knows right away he should not have done it. He is guilt-stricken when they tell him the number. And so then he tells God he's sinned, and God gives him a multiple choice option.
I'm sorry. What just happened?
It's so weird. There is like there's gonna be really no way to explain this to the listeners.
We're parked in our usual place behind Goodwill. We're overlooking.
You tell them about it.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna go take some footage.
Okay. She left, guys. She just got out of the car. So we're sitting here looking out over the vista that is not beautiful. It's just parking lots. There's Walmart in the distance. There's Goodwill. I think Rachel thinks that something else is happening. There are so many questions that I'm having right now. Anyway, What are you doing? You and I are speaking of two very different things.
What are you talking about? What were you pointing at?
Okay, I was pointing at a person. I'm not sure what gender. So Rachel just paused it.
I paused
Now
it.
we're really confused. No, here's the thing. Okay, so we're looking out over this not attractive vista of parking lots, but it is a parking lot. It's not like a field of great solitude. It's just a parking lot in front of like a appliance store. Anyway, no, there was a person standing right bang in the middle of the parking lot, apparently wearing no pants, who suddenly just began to put on a pair of pants, like in the middle of the parking lot. Got himself or herself all in there, put them on, buttoned them up, and then strolled off. And that's when I went, what? And I pointed. And then Rachel thought I was pointing at a weed that she thought was weird. And so she hopped out of the car to go take a look-see at the weed.
I suspect
That was
that
unusual.
the person must have been behind the tree to me or something, because
Maybe.
I looked out and I'm like, I
But-
see nothing here, but then this weed just sort of emerges from the sidewalk crack straight out the side of the curb, and I was like, that is weird, but I don't know. But
She
it
got
like
up to
came
go
out.
look. I like that she goes, you tell him about it. And she gets out of the car.
We're firing on all of our best cylinders right now.
Anyway, we were just talking about the census, and then
Yeah,
I stalled
so
out
Rebecca
about
started making shocked faces. So in the census, the thing that really stood out to me in that this time is that, Joab thinks it's a bad idea. David repents. God says you can have 7 years of famine, 3 months being pursued before your enemies, or 3 days of plague. And
Yeah.
David chooses the plague. And then it is just massive devastation. Like 70,000 men die of the plague. And the story, I think, is told a little bit out of order. But either way, when God says it's enough, the angel stays his hand. He's standing on the threshing floors of Aruna, and he stops because God says it's enough. The angel is devastating all of them. God says it's enough. And then but then it says, and I think it goes the other way, because I think that David says this to the Lord first, and then the Lord stops the angel. Because it says the time was, that it had finished the time that was appointed for it. And God says it's enough. But David says, he basically says, take me and my family, for I have sinned, but I'm the shepherd, these are just sheep.
Yeah.
And he's saying, don't do this to them. Let me take it. Let me have it. And I think the thing that's interesting that I saw this time, so the threshing floor of Aruna where the angel is standing is the future side of the temple.
Yeah.
So David goes and buys that land and makes is it a sacrifice he makes there, or a monument? It's a sacrifice probably. Whatever the case, the land that will be the future side of the temple is where David goes. But it's also traditionally the same place where Abraham offered Isaac.
Is it really?
Yeah. Which makes you
That's
think that
interesting.
in this enormous story of salvation, that God chose a very tiny little stage all in one area to have so many important things happen. And the thing that just really struck me is lots and lots of people wanted to be in the line of the Messiah. But they wanted to be in the line of the Messiah in terms of the deliverer.
Okay.
And I was thinking, this is what I said, I have to keep reading the Bible with this thought now and see if I notice anything else. But as far as I can tell, that is the only time that someone asked to be in the place, in the line of the Messiah in terms of the wrath of God. Because David says, on me and on my household, and this is what I think is so amazing, is this is God then And it says at the end, David's prayer was answered. And his prayer was answered because Jesus, who ultimately takes the whole wrath of God for all of mankind, is David's family. This is his line. And so this whole thing where David is saying, like, David is not pure, so he can't be the sacrifice.
Right.
But he wants to be.
That's
like
cool.
And he's saying, wipe out my whole family.
Yeah.
Like, and God doesn't answer him the way he offers it.
No,
But
it's
he
the son of
answers
David,
him.
Yeah.
And it struck me that to me, that was a moment that I felt like I understood at least a glimmer more of how David was a man after God's own heart. Like, that he saw the bigger thing.
Well, one of the things, this is not on that, but the other thing I always think is interesting, and I read it today in today's reading, and I was talking to my husband about it this morning, when Jesus is answering the Sadducees, and he's basically shutting them up, you know, and about the resurrection of the dead, because the Sadducees don't believe in the resurrection of the dead, and Christ is, bless you, and Christ is telling them that they are wrong. Bless you. Because when Moses is at the burning bush and says, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Jesus said he's not the God of the dead, but of the living, which means it's not God who was the God of Abraham while he was alive, Jacob while he was alive, but he's Abraham's God right now because Abraham is alive right now. But I think, this is what Ben and I were laughing about, is that is a method of exegesis that would never, ever, ever be approved by any teachers of exegesis. Like that is a really funny moral to draw from that phrase. Like, we can infer from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are still alive. Like, that's actually really funny. And it's always interesting when Jesus or the apostles do exegesis in a way that would get you thrown out of every seminary if you tried it. Because there's a lot of those parallels from the Old Testament.
We also just got to the one that I remember last year really striking me, that Herod must have been the one that, like, I think this time, last year through all of this, I realized how much Jesus did not like Herod.
I don't know that anyone liked Herod.
Except for I saw,
after
right. They got
friends.
together,
They became friends that day. They bonded.
But it's an amazing part of the story that when, you know, that Herod beheading John the Baptist for entertainment. Not the beheading for entertainment, but that he was willing to do that because he just liked someone's dancing.
Yeah.
And so he did that. And when Jesus hears that, he hates it. But then we just read the part where Jesus refers to Herod as the sly fox, like as that fox. Well, then later in the crucifixion, when Herod has him like dressed up and has him come and wants him to like do miracles as tricks, like he wants him to be his entertainment again.
Yeah.
But it says Jesus spoke nothing.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I bet you that was a time when Jesus was being and always tempted like us and yet without sin. Like that this was a time where he did not destroy Herod. He did not, what he had the capacity to do to Herod, he did not do because it was not what he was supposed to be doing right then. And he just endured it. But he did not, I don't know, it just struck me as different because it's not like Jesus is usually silent all the time. Yeah. Like, that is abnormal. Like, he's teaching in the temple. He responds to people. He makes them silent. But it is not often that he himself just is silent. And I thought, in that moment, and then they sent him away, but that's how Pilate and Herod got together. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
They were...
Previously, they had not gotten along, but now
they had not met or something.
No, they were enemies up until that day. Yeah, and then they were friends.
And then after that, they really got along.
I need to interject that I think I have a piece of glitter in my eye because
that's seasonal.
Yeah, but look, there's glitter all over my car right there.
You know why? Because I went to your Christmas party and you had that glitter ribbon. It's red and...
Did it have glitter on it?
Oh, it was so glittered.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I have one. See, you can see I have some right here, and my eye is just driving me nuts right now. But, oh yeah, the Christmas party. We spoke of it last time. It happened. We did a Christmas party. And Rachel's children are all stars. If you ever need a crew to work a party, I recommend her children.
I felt a little bad the next day because, well, my older kids all love it. They want to do it forever. And
You
actually,
have
all
glitter
the
on your face also. I'm just going to throw
whose
that
fault
out
is
there.
that?
I don't know.
So it's not actually. All of my kids like to be there for this. But the next day, because they still had school, the next day my 6-year-old got a text from the teacher that he had a headache.
You're like, you
And
don't
I was
say.
like, well, he was just working in the kitchen until
Well,
10 p.m.,
the
so I
thing
wonder
is-
why. He's just having a hard,
I know, because
he's
it
just tired.
it was, not only was it a weekday late, it was finals week for my kids. And they were all total champions, and they were working too, and 2 of them had basketball games, and then they showed up and worked. And
They have fun. Our
it was
kids
great.
like to do that kind
It
of
was
stuff.
super great. And I did
Is it time for...
manage to get all the cooking done, and life was exciting because
Yeah,
that
it
is in the
happens. It was
rearview mirror.
good. Food was good.
It's still all over my kitchen table. I still have piles of everything everywhere.
But the work of a moment.
It'll be easy.
So I have to bring up, now I can do my tip, right?
Do your tip, Rach. Just give it
I'm
to us.
so ready to share my
Bring
tip with you.
your tip forth.
You guys are gonna laugh. This is a tip from the Department of Treat Yourself. Do a thing.
I'm sorry. You really have a lot of glitter on your face. I
So
think
do
I
you. Becca's car is a
It's
glitter
just
bomb.
it's like a glitter
Like, are you
palace.
sure you haven't been? Oh wow, I do. Are you sure you haven't been stealing packages off of someone's porch?
and having it glitter
So
overtake me?
so-
Ben was like, that could have been better. He said he was like, what they needed to do was spritz out a bit of glue first.
or like an air horn, some spray mount and then glitter,
A little spray mount, a little glitter,
and an
then
air horn
it would have been good.
and an air horn.
Or just maybe a little spritzes
I feel
of
like they
Elmer's.
should have done some things to get the whole neighborhood's attention when someone did that. It would make it much funnier.
Yeah, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So, my tip, from Treat Yourself, the category of just splurge on this because it makes your life better.
Okay, do it.
If you're having potatoes for events,
As one does.
as one usually does. So, I'm going to be making the gratin potatoes, which
Okay. Okay.
scallop potatoes,
The
whatever.
Ina Garten recipe.
Just the one that I do.
Okay.
But I do it without a recipe now. But
Okay.
But whatever, I'm making that. Well, but when you're doing potatoes, even mashed potatoes, don't buy a bag of potatoes. Buy baker potatoes, like individual potatoes. If you're using russets, buy individual potatoes.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, it's because you can choose the ones that are
Easy to
much
peel.
more fun to peel.
Yeah, for sure.
And that I buy them in that so that they fit easily into my food processor top
Yeah.
so that I can slice them easily for the gratin potatoes.
Mm-hmm,
And then my whole process goes much more smoothly because you're just, it's like you're not dealing with these little
But a big baker
nuggets.
potato, how does that fit into your food processor? That seems impossible.
You hand select shapes that
Skinny
you want to
ones?
deal with.
Skinny minis?
Yeah, and I know you can cut them. If you need to cut them lengthwise or something, you can do that. But my point,
But for au gratins, you kind of need a circle.
right? I choose the potatoes
Yeah, it's a good
that
point.
are the ones I want to deal with. Instead of when you open one of those bags,
No.
some of them are like
No.
just like a little golf ball in there,
really-
and then you're like, how's this gonna work for me? And the thing is that bulk potatoes are still very cheap,
Well,
so there's really no real.
I had never thought of this as either a tip or as a treat yourself opportunity, but I totally agree with you because I really don't like buying a bag of potatoes because you can't see what you're getting, and frequently you really do need uniformity between your potatoes if you want them to all cook evenly or whatever else. If you're
just at least
boiling them, you
least
still
a
want them the
nod
right
towards
size.
it,
Yeah. And if you get a 5-pound bag, then they have to fill it to 5 pounds which means
They
all the
throw in little nubbies.
little offcuts.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and you don't want a heavily dimpled potato. Like, I want the potatoes
No.
that have so I choose potatoes. I hand select my potatoes for ease of holding and peeling. Like, how quick will this be to peel?
Totally.
And then
Totally.
shoot it through the food processor.
I have a sad sorrow about my food processor because I didn't have one for a lot of years. Or I had one weird one, and then, I don't know. And then I didn't have one for a long time. And then my husband got me one for Christmas. It might have been last year, and it was a big, awesome one. Like, a really great one. It's sort of like big size, had all the different, like, it's a nice food processor. Almost immediately, we broke the bowl. So, life is hard in my kitchen. It's like you have to be rugged and tough to survive in my kitchen as an appliance because it's...
Did you replace it?
No.
Why?
No. It's got a piece of tape on it right now for one of my innovative children was like, I'm sure we can tape this on here and it'll still work. And they were right, but the little thing that
I know
you
what you're talking
put
about.
on it,
Mine
there's
broke
the little...
on mine, but after like 14
There's a
years
little
or something.
metal spike that goes down
Yeah.
and triggers the mechanism. Yeah, we had to use a shish kebab skewer to stick in there. It, and so now it's just sitting in a box in my kitchen, not usable.
Well, you
Every
should
so
order
often
the
I
part.
think of it, I'm like, I should order that part. It's like $100 to replace those two pieces. And then you're like,
Buy yourself a second.
do
food
I
processor.
need one? Not bad. Yeah. Anyway, so what I'm telling you is that I have to hand slice if I was going to au gratin it. I do have a little mandolin.
I have done that, but I prefer the food processor because when you're doing it for 40 people or something, it's just more fun.
Here's my tip. Over the last week, I was chopping multitudes of onions and shallots for this party. And I think I was doing like 30 shallots or something. Yeah, it was 30 some shallots. And I have discovered that some shallots in the world are utter beasts to peel. Like really terrible. Really, truly awful. You cannot get the peel off of them without really taking too long. And there are other shallots that are just fine. They're like an onion. It just pops off and it's no problem. And I have discovered that it is, they are grouped by store. So some stores carry the hard to peel shallots. Winco, they're terrible. Safeway, easy peel. Anyway, if you need one shallot, it doesn't matter. But if you are ever in the situation,
going back and testing this theory before.
no, I've done it before. Like I only buy shallots from Safeway if I'm doing a bulk.
Why do you think it's a different variety?
Yeah, I think they source them from different places, and it's probably a different variety. And it matters a lot when you are doing
a lot
that
of them.
many. Yeah, and so it's funny because it really isn't. Oh, this one was easy and that one was hard. I think it really is a variety thing, and. So that's
So
really
all you
only
have to do is run into your
Just if you're-
produce department, peel a shallot real fast.
No, just pay attention to which stores carry which kinds of shallots. Just buy one from one place and one from another.
And then mark them.
Also, this is also the case with prosciutto, I will say. Because some prosciutto peels right off of that paper and some prosciutto does not. And I will tell you that Safeway has terrible peely prosciutto. It's not all right. Their shallots peel, their prosciutto doesn't peel. Winco has easy peel prosciutto.
You never know.
I also know that from this party.
Did you know what
and
I
previous
did? What I
ones.
found myself doing this week? Freezing ham, deli meat ham,
Yeah.
in layers on a cookie sheet with parchment so that I could take frozen slices of ham off and put them all in a bag in the freezer for my children who want to make themselves eggs in the morning with a slice of ham.
That sounds like a lot of trouble.
Not more trouble than keeping it. Why? Why does that sound like a lot of trouble?
individually freezing flat pieces of ham?
Yeah, it was a good idea.
Why don't you just chop a bunch of ham and put it into little Ziploc bags sized for 1 egg's worth?
And freeze it in a clod?
Yeah.
We don't we're not doing chopped ham. We freeze it. We put the whole slice on the pan to heat it,
What?
to like fry it.
Okay, so walk me through this egg.
Well, what it actually is me prep. Some of my kids like eggs. What I'm doing is switching to make yourself breakfast. So it's not like I'm doing eggs for everyone. It's if someone wants to make themselves an egg, there is a piece of ham in the freezer that they can use. Like there's sourdough bread
So
for
then
toast
they just
and
throw it on the griddle.
ham. Yeah, and they just heat it up in the it up in their skillet, and then they make eggs. So we do the eggs with a little bit of butter, and when it's foamy, crack 2 eggs in it, salt and pepper.
Yeah.
And then you turn them over, and then you put it out on your ham and toast, and then you put a little bit of red wine vinegar in the pan with the remaining butter and let it reduce a tiny bit and drizzle that on top.
Yeah, that's good. No, my kids usually chop the ham and throw it into like a egg scramble with
No, my
cheese,
kids are doing fried eggs.
and then they put that on toast. Well, my kids do fried also, but
we also bagged a lot of individual smoothie contents. So
I have a hot tip on that though. I did this for kids with early morning basketball practice. I haven't done it in a while. I need to reboot this one. You can actually just make a bunch of smoothies, put them in like those
cold
little
to-go cups kind of?
Well, because those don't freeze super well. I mean, like you can buy like freezer jam containers. You know, they're like Tupperware with green plastic lids. If you freeze the smoothie like already done, they can grab it and take it, and it's still like it'll melt just a little bit and then be totally drinkable by the time they need it.
That's nice.
Yeah, and I have done the bagged smoothie thing too. That's always handy.
I'm doing it because I'm switching to make your own breakfast, which means that some kids want smoothies, some want fried eggs, some want toast. So I have this.
Yeah, we have been in the make your own breakfast for quite some time in the world, and it is true that everyone does their own thing, and I always wonder why did we have to dirty 94 different frying pans for eggs? You know, when
I bought one
you come
pan
away with
that
all
is
the different
one pan
pans
they can use for their eggs. So
yeah, but
they
if it's busy or dirty, then mine tend to just grab a new one.
Yeah.
And there you are.
Well, I have a theory. I'm working on it where it is, let there be no sign you were here.
I need to work on that theory too, but I think I need to master it myself before I can.
It's actually been a really funny growing phase, because now I make myself coffee and sit at the counter and tell them, you gonna clean up those crumbs?
That's smart.
Let me see you follow through on that cleaning out the blender.
That was a strangely renegade bunch of tips, but I think we need to go because I have to go buy all the Christmas presents.
The time is nigh.
All of them of all the land.
All
I'm
right,
gonna go buy them now.
We'll talk to you all later.
Guys, it's been good. Have a good Christmas.
Bye.
Bye.
You think of yourself now, and then in 4 years' time, what do you want yourself to look like? And is the education that you're considering going to help you get to that place?
When you're a student, you want to become like your teacher. You're going to become like your teacher. Looking at NSA beforehand, I knew I wanted to become like the men who are teaching here.
Fireman, husband, father, doctor, no matter where you want to go, NSA is just such good preparation for the person that you want to be.
If you want to be an effective Christian, you need to be able to lead and shape culture. If you want to do that, no matter what your occupation is, you need to shape yourself, prepare yourself as a person for that job. And liberal arts is, I think, the best education you can have for that.
To learn more, check us out online at nsa.edu.